I'm Billy Stewart, Assistant Pastor here at Solid Rock Tabernacle. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to come join us personally in one of our exciting Spirit-filled services. Our Sunday school begins at 9 a.m. Our Sunday morning worship is at 10 a.m. Our Sunday evening worship is at 6 p.m. And we have an exciting Wednesday evening Bible study that begins at 7 p.m. Hey, we'll save a seat for you. And now, let's join our service already in progress.
Or Satan has been defeated. The armies came up against the Antichrist and his prophet, his false prophet, and he was defeated. Jesus came back and defeated them. All right, with his army. Now, who was the army that Jesus came back with? Who was in the army? We were. Yeah, we were in the army. So now we're getting into Revelation chapter 20, where Satan, sin, and death are eliminated. All right? This is going to be pretty good, and it's going to take a little bit of time because as I was going through this, I only got about the first four verses before I ran out of, I kind of know how long how many slides I can have to do it, and after the first four verses, I ran out of slides. So I said, okay, that'll be about as long as we need to do it tonight. So we'll get into the other part, but that's okay. I try to find a good stopping space to do that. Yeah, part 2 coming soon. Part 2 coming soon. All right. Let's go into chapter 20, verse number 1. And it says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand." So John sees this angel come down from heaven. He's got the key to the bottomless pit, and he's got a great chain in his hand, a big chain. What do you think the chain's for? Yeah, you're going to chain up somebody on this. Now, let's look at something really interesting here. Is the angel identified? No. The angel is anonymous. It doesn't say who the angel is. All right? Well, what's the significance in that? Well, the final importance of Satan is indicated by the fact that it wasn't the Father, it wasn't the Son, it wasn't Michael the archangel, it wasn't Gabriel, it wasn't any of the other named angels that came down. This is just some anonymous angel that comes down and gets him. It was only an unnamed angel that comes down to take him. Which means what? He's not very important, okay? He's not very important. And this is a dramatic declaration about something. And this declaration is that Satan is not God's opposite or equal. Okay? A lot of times Christians will think, when you talk of Satan, they'll automatically think that Satan is the opposite of God. Okay? But he's not. He's nowhere near it. He's nowhere near equal to God. He's nowhere near the power that God has. So,
does that mean that Satan is a God himself?
no, Satan is. Well, if he was the opposite of God, he would be a God himself. Yeah, but he's not. So Satan is not the opposite, and he's not equal to God. So if he's not God's opposite and not God's equal, that means that God could easily stop him anytime that he wants to, right? Okay? So God could take care of it. So why do you think that God allows Satan to continue doing what he's doing? Continuing his evil, continuing his activities? Why do you think God allows Satan to do that? He can stop Satan at any time. Okay? Yeah. All right? So has anybody ever asked you as a Christian, say, why, if God is there, why does he allow these things to happen? Okay. Well, free will. Why does he allow suffering to happen? Why does he allow this to happen? Why does he allow that to happen? And I've had a lot of people ask me that. I'm sure Brother Gilmore has too. You know the answer that I give them every time? I have no idea.
You know, it's like when, you know, something comes upon you and something bad happens to you. And you go, why do you let that happen? Well, it's you're not hanging by a cross. You know?
Yeah.
What do you think we're going to go through? We're never going to match the pain and suffering that he went through.
Yeah, we're never going to match the pain and suffering.
Oh, yeah, it could always be worse.
It could always be worse. I quit saying that too because every time I said it could always be worse, it gets worse. So, but anyway, now the reason that God allowed, I don't know why God allows bad things to happen. None of us do. But what I do know is whatever he's allowing to happen, because just like allowing things for Satan, allowing Satan to continue, it's because it indirectly serves the purpose of God. There's some reason that it's happening. We don't know what it is. It's all part of God's big plan. Yeah. We don't know what it is, but we don't have to know what it is. Why? Because it's not our plan. We just have to trust that God has a purpose. And that whatever it is that God wants to do with it, he's going to do with it. All right. Let's look at verses 2 and 3. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. Okay? This is interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a little while. Not today necessarily, but we will talk about it as we go along with that. Yeah, put the tape over Satan's mouth. Okay? Well, what does Satan try to do? Satan tried to imprison Jesus in a tomb. Okay? And Satan thought that he had won when Jesus was in the tomb. He thought that he had won. Okay? But he didn't. And he found out he didn't win. And God has no problem whatsoever restraining Satan. Okay? Now think of this for a second. This is going to blow your mind. Mind blown. All right? This is not a punishment. It is restraint. He is not being punished right now. Satan is not being punished right now. He's just being restrained. He's being locked into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Okay? And while he is restrained, so is his demonic armies. They are restrained. Okay? Now, is this a literal transaction? Okay. Is it literal? Is Satan literally going to be thrown into the bottomless pit? Because we know that the dragon is a literal person. Okay. We know the false prophet is a literal person. Okay. All right. So, yeah, it is. Certainly, it's a literal translation. The battle was literal. The taking of the beast and the false prophet is literal. The slaying of the kings and their armies, all that is literal. Satan is literal, and his binding must be equally as literal. Yeah. You can't, as you're looking at this, you can't resolve it into anything else. It is a literal thing. But what kind of chain can hold the devil? So we don't know what kind of chain it is.
How can he like literally be like chained up if he's a spirit? He's not a literal.
Well, the dragon is a person.
But the devil's not. The devil's just a spirit, isn't he?
Hey, but the dragon is a literal person. Okay. The dragon, the false prophet, those are literal people. Okay. So he can be confined to that person's body. Okay, and he could be chained. But what kind of chain can? Yes.
The only thing I've ever thought of, crazy as it is, I've always thought it was a holy chain because it come out of heaven.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just always figured it was a spiritual holy chain
Mm-hmm.
that could only hold it.
It can only hold him. Okay. We don't know exactly what kind of chain it's going to be, but God can fashion a chain for that purpose if He wants to. Yes.
It could be the same chain that holds us down by sin.
Okay.
It could be that.
Could be kind of that. Okay. But we do know one thing. We know that right now there are demonic spirits who are imprisoned and chained right now. You're all looking at me like you're crazy. Prison and chained right now. Do I have proof of that? Yes. As a matter of fact, I do. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, He hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Jude, verse 6. So there are angels that left the first estate, that left with Satan when he fell, okay, that are chained. Not all of them are, but some of them are. Okay? Now, if God can chain them now, as it says in Jude verse 6, and I say Jude verse 6 because Jude only has one chapter. So, as it says in Jude verse 6, then God can certainly chain Satan for 1,000 years. Okay? Now, what does this tend to imply to you? That Satan is bound and thrown into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Okay, yeah. It implies a complete cessation of his influence on earth. Okay? The earth is still continuing, yes. Yeah. But his activities, Satan's activities, are going to cease. Okay?
So they're going to lay dormant.
Huh?
They're going to lay dormant.
Yeah, basically. They're going to basically lay dormant. But he completely stops their activity rather than just curbing them. Right? By curbing them, it means that he slows them down and he puts some sort of stops on them. But here he's stopping them completely, a complete cessation of it. Now, some take this.
So instead of applying the brakes, he just put a wall.
Instead of putting on the brakes, he puts he disables the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. Now, some take this as Satan binding on a personal level, to an extent. But one thing to notice is that Satan's conquest doesn't come, and his cessation doesn't come from anything that man does. Man cannot do anything. There's no man that simply binds Satan. We can't, okay? God can. Now, those that take this as a personal level does not take the text seriously when you look at it. As I said, no man can bind Satan with this prayer. Okay? We can keep Satan at bay with our prayer. We can keep Satan away from us with our prayer. But binding Satan can only be done by divine intervention and by divine initiative. God's the only one that can physically bind Satan. Okay? Again, conquest of Satan does not come from human effort. Nothing that we do is going to do it. All right?
Well, the 1,000 years that he's tied up.
Uh-huh.
Is that before or after the rapture?
That's well after the rapture. After the rapture, after the battle of Armageddon, when Jesus comes back and destroys all of the armies of the world, okay? He comes back, establishes rule on the earth. All right? Satan is bound for 1,000 years. This is what we call the millennium. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Okay? All right. Let's go back to this. To verse number 3. It says that he should deceive the nations no more. Here, Satan's main mode of attack is revealed. Satan is a deceiver. Okay? He is a deceiver. So the most potent defense against Satan is the truth of God's Word. All right? Now, we know that Satan is not bound right now. Why? Because his work is continuing today. Yeah. He keeps going on. Satan was not bound at the cross. Satan was not bound at the resurrection. Satan was not bound at the founding of the church. As a matter of fact, Peter says that Satan was free to walk the earth as a roaring lion. You remember that? 1 Peter 5:8. Satan continues to effectively deceive today. It is, that has been Satan's main tool on his tool belt since the beginning. When he convinced Eve to eat man out of house and home, okay, he did it how? By deceiving Eve. By deceiving her. His deception, he's very good at deception. So he continually does this, and he's very effective at doing it. Now, people do not make falsehoods. They don't speak falsehoods. They don't print falsehoods. They don't believe falsehoods. Okay? So what do? They eat them. They drink them. They wear them. Okay? They act them. They live them. They make them elements of their very being. These falsehoods. We see that a lot right now with the things that's going on in Israel. The people are going up there, and people, these, only word to describe them as idiots, at these colleges, these educated idiots, these colleges, are saying this stuff isn't happening. And you can show them proof that it's happening, and they still say, oh, well, no, that's not happening. Because they don't want to believe that. So they're eating the falsehood. The big thing that was a while back is that the Matrix. Anybody remember when the Matrix came out? Yeah. They had I never saw it, but I've seen pieces of it to where there's the red, blue, and the blue pill, or the red pill and the blue pill. Okay? If you take the blue pill, you can believe anything you want. That's fine. If you take the red pill, you're going to see the truth. And everybody's taking the blue pill. Okay? They just want to see what they want to see, believe what they want to see, and they're eating it, they're drinking it, they're living it. It becomes a part of their being. And I'm going to get off on a rabbit trail here for just a second. The thing I think is funny is they have these, the alphabet people going up. You know what I'm talking about? The LGBTQRS, XYZ people. Okay? They have the alphabet people going up there with their rainbow flags and all this stuff, going to these Free Palestine rallies. And they're saying, oh, free Palestine, free Palestine. You know? Do you know what would happen to you if you were in Palestine right now? They would, yeah. They would chop your head off. They would kill you. They would execute you. And yet they're going, oh, free Palestine. You know, it's because these people have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, they're starting to let a few people over into Egypt now. Okay. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. As we said just a moment ago, this is the millennium. This is the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Now, all throughout history, church history, there's been a lot of different ways of understanding the millennium. Okay? Some people in the church back in the early church, they actually ignored or denied the promise of the millennial reign of Christ. Okay? So they didn't really have a true doctrine about this. All right? And it wasn't until Augustine, who was an early church theologian, believed in an earthly historical reign of Jesus. All right? And in the late 300s, Tychonius, he influenced this spiritualized interpretation. And they called it amillennialism. All right? Now, what is amillennialism? I'm so glad you asked. It was a spiritual interpretation of the reign of Christ, not a literal interpretation of it. Okay? Amillennialism is saying A means, if something is A, it means not. So they're saying that it's not a true physical reigning of the church. All right? Now, this was adopted by Augustine and the